Hi friends, welcome back. Today we're talking about vertical angle proofs. The first thing I want you to write down in your notes is that vertical angles are congruent. Vertical angles are congruent. Now we're going to do a proof to show you why they are congruent, so that way you can use that note, vertical angles are congruent, going forward. Okay, so how are they congruent? The first thing we're going to do is talk about our proof here. We are given that angle 1 and angle 2 are vertical angles, and that is just a given for us. We are trying to prove then that angle 1 is congruent to angle 2. So first thing we break down is our given. We want to make sure that we've got angle 1 and angle 2 are vertical angles. Now, our next step here, is going to be to say that number 2, the angle 1 and angle 3 are a linear pair. All right. And angle 2 and angle 3 are a linear pair. Oh, I forgot a linear pair. Now, this is because of the definition of a linear pair. A linear pair is just two angles that create a line, right? So now that we know that they're a linear pair, what we can do is we can say, okay, well, for this third part, we can say angle 1 and angle 3 are supplementary. I'll spell it out the first time. There we go. And then angle 2 and angle 3 are also supplementary. And this is because the linear pair theorem, or the supplementary angle theorem, says that linear pairs are supplementary. So linear pairs, pair theorem. I always spelled that wrong. Okay, so we now know that angle 1 and 3 are supplementary and angle 2 and 3 are supplementary. Now, because angle 1 and angle 2, angle 1 and angle 3 and angle 2 and angle 3 are supplementary, we can now say that supplementary and 180 degrees. Remember, this is a chart we made in a previous video. Supplementary 180, that's going to be definition of supplementary angles. So now that we've been told that these are supplementary, we can say, okay, the measure of angle 1 plus the measure of angle 3 equals 180 degrees. The measure of angle 2 plus the measure of angle 3 also equals 180 degrees, because that is the very definition of supplementary angles. Okay, so now that we've got this out of the way, what we're trying to do, don't forget, is prove that 1 is congruent to 2. Well, if you take a look at this, this garbage equals 180, this garbage equals 180. So what we can say is, okay, well, measure of angle 1 plus the measure of angle 2, or measure of angle 3 equals 180, equals, I didn't mean to say 180, equals the measure of angle 2 plus the measure of angle 3. And that is because what we have done here is we've said, okay, this guy equals 180, this guy equals 180, therefore they equal each other. So we've just cut out that middleman right there, and we call that the transitive property. Let me move that down too. Okay, so now that we've got this guy, we can say, all right, well, if we subtract the measure of angle 3 from both sides, cancel, we get, for number 6, we get the measure of angle 1 is equal to the measure of angle 2. Okay, so we're getting close, because again, we wanted to prove that angle 1 is congruent to angle 2. So what we say here is that is the subtraction property that allowed us to subtract from both sides. So for this guy now, all we have to say is angle 1 is congruent to angle 2, and that is one of our favorites, definition of congruence. So that is how we can prove that those vertical angles are congruent. So let's look at our next one here. We have, given this information here, how do we prove that angle 4 is congruent to angle 7? So we've got, given that angle 5 is congruent to angle 6, so these two guys are congruent. I like to mark mine down when I'm doing this, and let me use a darker color so that you can see as you're going along. So we've got angle 5 is congruent to angle 6. Okay, now that we know that those guys are congruent, we go ahead and say, hey, that's a given, right? Now for our next one, what we can do is say angle 4 is congruent to angle 5. And this is because the very definition of vertical angles, they are vertical angles. And we just proved in our last proof that vertical Angles are congruent. Vertical angles are congruent. All right. So now what we can say is we've got angle 5 is congruent to angle 6. Angle 4 is congruent to angle 5. Therefore, angle 4 is also congruent to angle 6 because of the transitive property. Transitive property. So, and that's because what we did there is we just like knocked out that middleman, that angle 5, and we just said angle 4 is congruent to angle 6. Okay, so that's the transitive property. Now, let's see, looking back at this, we're trying to prove angle 4 is congruent to angle 7, and I don't see angle 7 here, but what we can do is say angle 6 and angle 7 are congruent, because angle 6 is congruent to angle 7, and that is because vertical angles are congruent. Okay, so now we've said angle 6 is congruent to angle 7. Now, again, with that transitive property, if we can just say, since angle 4 is congruent to angle 6 and angle 7 is congruent to angle 6, get rid of that guy, and we can say angle 4, this is number 5, angle 4 is congruent to angle 7, and that is the transitive property. And now we have proven that angle 4 is congruent to angle 7. So that is vertical angles and using proofs with vertical angles. If you have any questions, let us know. Otherwise, great work, and we'll see you next time.